baseball is still fun in Washington, D.C., right?
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And I'm your host, Ryan Clary. You can follow me over on Twitter at RyanClary11, and as well as the show page at LO_Nationals. Later on in today's show, I don't know if you guys saw this, but Johnny DiPuglia, the Nationals assistant GM, as well as kind of the guy who got all the credit for signing Juan Soto, and as well as a lot of other international free agents, he resigned over this last weekend, and a lot of people are starting to think, because Mike Rizzo has not gotten this deal yet, as it was reported that he would eventually get the deal. Nothing is set in stone yet, and now this happens. There's some questions to be asked. This is something. We're going to discuss that a little bit later on in today's show, but also it's a Monday. It's a national stock report day. Who's been hot? Who's been not, who's been up, who's been down, whatever you want to say. We'll get into that also a little bit later on. But let's start off with this really bad weekend. Let's just say it as it is. It was a really bad weekend for this Nationals ball club. And I'm at the beach right now. I'm obsessed with this team. I watch them when they play 3 hours out of my day, every single day. I watch them. What happened this weekend was something that I just didn't really expect, to be honest. I truly did not. It felt like this Nationals team was taking this step up in the second half of the season, entering a big, crucial offseason where you've already extended Davey Martinez. GM Mike Rizzo is up for an extension as well. You're on the up and up. You have two blue chip prospects with James Wood and Dylan Cruz. And all of a sudden, it is not looking too good. And it starts off with Josiah Gray. Let's just be honest. It starts off with Josiah Gray and what he has or hasn't done over the last few weeks. But listen, let's just start off with that. Because Josiah Gray in yesterday's game, it was not pretty. It was not good yet again. And this is something that we have seen over the course of since the beginning of August. And really even kind of bleeding back into July as well. We've seen this. We've seen the frustration with him. He hasn't been able to pound the strike zone in a way that he was doing at such an efficient rate back in the first half when he was an all-star, where he looked like he was going to be your number 2 starter for years and years to come. Well, over the last really month and a half or so, it just has not been clicking for Josiah Gray. And this is something to where this isn't new. This isn't really new with Josiah Gray. We all know that the issue with Gray over the last really month has been his fastball and his fastball command. We've seen the issues with it over time, and everyone always sticks to this one point, and it's honestly true. If you were to just look at the video of right now and what he is pitching in yesterday's game compared to what he was doing in mid-June, his front shoulder, his left shoulder, when he is pitching, flies all the way open. All the way open. And this has been that way now for really about a month. These are simple mechanical flaws with Josiah Gray, and really what makes him erratic is just simple as that, in my opinion, because in the first inning yesterday, let's just be honest, it was not good. And then obviously with Josiah Gray, what was highlighted was after that first inning, Jacob Young loses the ball in the sun, which it happens. It's going to happen. And Mark Zuckerman, I thought, had a funny tweet with this. It's the September sun monster at Nationals Park. We've seen this over the years in which the sun just has awful placement for day games, really. It's just right over, camping over Nationals Park. And at that point, it makes it really difficult to field. It makes it really difficult to just simply do your job. Josiah Gray knows this by now. This is his third September in Washington, D.C. He knows how this ballpark plays. Now, is it frustrating? Of course. Of course it's frustrating to see a ball go over your head, something that should be routine, something that then leaks into multiple runs being scored. But when you're also not throwing the ball over the plate the way that Josiah is, when you're walking multiple guys, because after that, he walked 3 straight batters. It obviously bugged him. It did. And this is something for for someone who is struggling, you need to make all the solid defensive plays. But in that stretch of Jacob Young and what he did, that's not his fault. You're going to lose a ball in the sun. That's just the game of baseball. That's the frustrations that come with a 162 game season. These little mistakes, or even if you want to call them mistakes, they're not really mistakes to lose a ball in the sun. So Josiah, he calls him out and says, catch the bleeping ball. He yelled it at him. Dominic Smith pulled him aside and said, who knows what he actually said, but I'm assuming he probably said something along the lines of, hey, we don't do that here in the big leagues. Like, everyone's out here fighting for their own, and especially for someone like Jacob Young, who has been great defensively so far, who has been solid at the plate, who has been just putting up decent numbers so far through the first week up in the bigs. You don't do that. You don't really show up someone like that, especially if someone of his young caliber. You want to build up someone's confidence when it comes to Jacob Young. So with what Josiah Gray did in that aspect of it, it's bad. It is bad. You can say what it is. Bad. If this was, name that pitcher over the years, if this was John Lester back in 2021, we'd kill him. If this was Steven Strasburg in 2022, whatever it is, we'd kill the guy. But here's also the thing with Josiah is that this is out of character for him. This is not the Josiah Gray that we all know. This is not the kind of the team leader, clubhouse guy that Josiah Gray is. I think this was just one pivotal bad moment throughout a really long season and a really bad stretch for Josiah Gray. Because that's what it's been. It's been bad, and it's not just the defense. The defense has been really bad. It's kind of starting to have that stench of the 2022 Nationals and really the first half when you have Josh Bell and Juan Soto in that lineup. It's starting to stench of that, which is an issue in my opinion. But over the course of 162 games, that's not really what this is about. That's not really what this Nationals defense has been about. They have taken strides up. Now, while the analytics and the deep dive, the stats, whatever you want to look at, it may not really hold up to the truth of having a good defense, but this Nationals defense last year was so bad that the fact that this minimal improvement, especially up in the infield, there's been a difference there. And you have a potential Gold Glover, and in my opinion, should be a Gold Glover, with Lane Thomas in the outfield as well. You also had Victor Robles for the first part of the season. He was playing great defense. Alex Cole has had some flashy moments. Left field has always kind of been not that great defensively, but we can deal with it. You have two guys out there who are routinely making plays, and especially with Lane Thomas in right field every single day, that is an important factor in this. But the concerning part with Josiah Gray is that here are his numbers over the last few starts. In his last 7 starts, which is only 29 and a third innings pitched, he has 24 strikeouts and 24 walks and has a 1.70 whip in that time as well. This has not been a good run. 24 walks in 29 and a third innings pitched, that is the problem right then and there. He is simply not throwing strikes. And really, if you look back at that Yankees game, which the numbers, you look at him, only a hit, no runs, he looked good. But if you also look at that start, he threw more balls than strikes. That ain't good. This has not been good for a while with Josiah. And yes, you could blame the Sun Monster at Nationals Park. You can blame the poor defense that has kind of been unraveling over the second half of the season. But it also kind of starts with Gray. He has to start pounding the strike zone. He has to find a way to start getting strikes across the plate. So when he's calling out Jacob Young, it just is not a good look because you cannot be throwing stones when you live in a glass house. You can't. And the way that Josiah Gray has been pitching over the last few weeks, you're living in a glass house. It's destined to be broken. And at this moment in time, it's pretty broken. So that kind of brings up the question of what's next? Do you shut down Josiah Gray? Do you skip a start? Do you let him work through these flaws because you want to see these young guys take these next steps in their development? Those are all good arguments. But at this moment in time, there's really no fix to this because he's not injured as far as we know. There's been nothing to make us think that he is. But he has mechanical issues that have popped up over the course of his major league career. And so at this moment, when he threw that bullpen on Friday, Davey Martinez said he looked great. Well, obviously, the issues were still there. And it's starting to affect him because Josiah, in that moment after that first inning, that's so unlike him. It's out of character. I'm not concerned by it whatsoever because one, he apologized to all of his teammates, which he should have done. And two, it's not him. That is the one bad thing that Josiah Gray has done as a Washington National in 2.5 years. And how many starts? One bad mistake. I can talk about all the great things that he has done, the great things he's done for the community. Anything you want to talk about, we can discuss. Josiah Gray, that was a bad moment. But it's really beyond that for me. It's beyond that. It's mechanical stuff when it comes to Gray. And those issues, that's what needs to be fixed. Those are the issues that need to be fixed as soon as possible, especially heading into this offseason. He finished strong last year, and now it's looking like at this moment, September 4th, we're not going to be finishing that way this year. And that's kind of a harsh reality to live in when he had such a good first half, when he makes that all-star game. But now we have to ask the question of what's next for him. Because at this moment, I'm not shutting him down. I just truly don't believe in that. But I think you also have to skip a start. And especially with these 2 off days coming up, you have an off day today, and then you also have another off day on Thursday. So he's going to get some extra rest here, but also skip that next start. Have him throw a bullpen. Have him do whatever it may be. Because you're going to be missing Mackenzie Gore tomorrow night, who's on bereavement list leave. And Josiah Gray, you need him to finish strong heading into 2024 because he's going to be one of those guys that you're going to rely on for the rest of his entire Nationals career. This is someone who could be up for debate of getting a contract extension and all that wonders. But he's got to fix these mechanical issues before any of that happens. And if it's skipping a start, and if it has to be shutting him down, if that's what you feel like is best, then do it. Because again, something I say so often, something we all think so often, 2023 doesn't really matter all too much when it comes to wins and losses. It's all about the development. And you're seeing a lot of development this year, a lot of step-ups, and Josiah Gray is certainly amongst those, making the All-Star game. But over the course of the last month or so, something has been different, and it's been different in a very bad way. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, it's a Monday. It's a National Stock Report Monday, so we're going to get into that. But before we do that, let me tell you guys about our friends over at Nutrafol. And guys, you don't have to choose between better hair growth and your health. Nutrafol provides a whole body health approach for men that promotes healthier hair. No drugs, no compromises, just simply better hair. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement, clinically shown to improve your hair growth, visible thickness, and visible scalp coverage. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements use physician-formulated, natural, science-backed ingredients. They're drug-free. Patented technology provides consistent, reliable results without compromising your sexual health. Go to Nutrafol.com/men to take their health wellness quiz. Identify causes of your thinning hair, and Nutrafol will give you a personalized plan for better hair health through the whole body wellness. And guys, it's really just that easy. Take the first step to visibly thicker, healthier hair. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men and enter promo code Locked On MLB. Find out why over 4,000 healthcare professionals recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com/men, spelled Nutrafol.com/men, and enter promo code Locked On MLB. That's Nutrafol.com/men, promo code Locked On MLB. Now let's get back into it, as again, it is a National Stock Report Monday after a very tough week for this Nationals ball club, and it wasn't fun. But you know who's back? Lane Thomas. Lane Thomas, you get a stock up, my friend. And over the last few games or so, he's got a 1049 OPS. He's got 3 home runs, 5 RBIs, and a 692 slug. Lane Thomas, he was kind of going through that stretch where it wasn't all too pretty. He was kind of slowing down a little bit. He had the back tightness last week, but since then, 3 home runs against the Marlins, Great weekend for Lane Thomas. And that's kind of bounce back that we needed. Someone who is a team leader, someone who kind of leads by example with Lane Thomas, in which this Nationals ball club hasn't been all great. It hasn't been sunshine and roses and flowers all week long. It's been a tough week, a very tough week, in fact. But Lane Thomas, he's getting back on track, and that is a good thing. Stock down, Dominic Smith. He's only got 4 hits over his last 24 at-bats. He's got 5 strikeouts. He does have 1 home run. And listen, it kind of feels a little bad to give Dominic Smith this because he plays solid defense. He's been valuable on the defensive side of things. But again, his offense. At that first base position, you need a power bat. You need someone who's going to get on base. You need someone who's going to hit the long ball. Simply just has not been that so far in 2023. And it's not going to be that way for the last month of the season. But Dominic Smith has had stretches of where he gets a little hot, the power is there, and really where he is valuable, in my opinion, in the most way is probably in the clubhouse, as we saw in yesterday's ball game with kind of taking control of Josiah Gray, pulling him aside and saying, we don't do that here. We don't yell at teammates. We don't show someone up, especially at a young age of which Jacob Young is at. You don't do that. Dominic Smith, stock down for him. Simple as this. Get it done at the plate. How about this guy? How about this guy? Stock up for Travis Blankenhorn. And so far, for the first few games up in the big leagues, you're batting .333. You're getting on base half the time, and you have a .666 slug. Now, again, 3 games. But he homered in his first game as a National, and he's got 3 walks compared to 1 strikeout in those 3 games. Travis Blankenhorn, he's going to get some more playing time as the season continues to roll on because, 1, he's stacking up hits, and 2, I didn't really know he had the power of what he kind of showed in that home run. I mean, it wasn't the longest home run ever, but in your first game up in the big leagues with the Nationals, he's obviously had a few stops here and there, most recently with the New York Mets. He looked good. This is kind of someone, again, this is what the last month is going to be about, is guys down in the minor leagues who have performed at a very high level, which Blankenhorn has done all year long. This kind of call-up is something that gets me a little excited for September. I want to see guys like this. I want to see guys who were once kind of not promising prospects, but someone who has had success in the minor leagues and could qualify as a 4A player because he kills the ball in AAA, similar to what Luis Garcia has kind of done over the years. He kills it in AAA, gets up to the majors, all of a sudden it's just not there. Travis Blankenhorn so far, though, 3 games, a home run, a couple of base hits, a couple walks as well. Really encouraging stuff to see here. Stock down, Mason Thompson. This hurts. Are we ready to call it in with Mason Thompson at this moment? Seriously, that's the point we're at so far with Mason. And since coming back from injury, he has a 14.4 earned run average. In 5 innings pitched in only 6 games, he's only got 2 strikeouts. He's given up 11 hits. What is going on? What has gone wrong with Mason Thompson? Someone, if you just look back at April and May, someone who kind of showed a lot of promise, someone who, in which I kind of put a lot of eggs in the basket for. Back in the season, I always thought this bullpen would be really solid. And as the season's gone on, it's gotten a little better. But you get a couple of flare-ups like this, and also Kyle Finnegan, who's kind of fallen off the wagon just a little bit over the last few games. But even then, Mason Thompson is kind of someone that you look at him, he has all the promise in the world. He's got the junk. He's got the command. He's got all these different tools. But at this moment in time, he's just getting kind of schlacked around. And that's not something that you really want to see from this young guy, especially when he showed all that promise. What has gone wrong? At this moment, can you trust this guy in any situation? You can't. You have to put him in the game when you have a 8-run lead. Or you have to put him in the game when you're down by 8 runs in the 9th inning. You just need someone to eat an inning up. Because at this moment, you don't want to be putting him in a game when it's a 1-run ball game. You can't. 11 hits in those 5 innings, that's Patrick Corbin type of stuff there. Especially for someone who has a lot of promise, in which I still believe could be something down the line. But you don't just want to hang him out there to dry. He's still way too young and way too immature as a player. You don't want to leave someone out there to dry because, 1, it kills the confidence, and 2, it's just not going to be good. So at this moment, Mason Thompson, he can't be put in high pressure situations because it ain't going to work out. And I think he's kind of proven that over the last few weeks here, coming back from injury. And again, yeah, he's coming back from injury. But that's not the end of the day. That was about a month ago at this point. He's got to step up. He's got to be better. And in this Nationals organization, they're going to rely on him a lot in 2024. He needs to show a little bit of promise entering this offseason in order for them to feel really comfortable about the back end of this bullpen when you get Tanner Rainey back, Kyle Finnegan returns, and all these different guys. Stock up as well for Jacob Young. Now, it's a little iffy. He hasn't really done all too much in the big leagues, but here's the thing that's kind of stuck out with Jacob Young. He kind of fits this little scrappy mold that the Nationals have had. He's stealing bases. He's making defensive plays, and he's kind of been a tough out so far. And his speed, he's just a speed demon on the base path, and that is kind of something that gets me a little fired up for him. I like Jacob Young. He showed me something over the last week, that this guy is a big leaguer, and I've seen people throw around the Adam Eaton comparisons, and he does kind of have that skill set. In fact, I think he's a little faster than Adam Eaton. I think he's more of a stolen base threat than him, because if you look at Jacob Young and what he has done, just on the base path, this guy is a weapon. This is someone that you put on in second base when it's a tied game in Game 7 of the World Series in the bottom of the ninth. He's going to be your pinch runner. This is going to be someone who will be a role player for this Nationals team down the line. I don't think he's going to be a starting outfielder for this Nationals team, but I think he's going to play that role of a fourth outfielder down the line. That's the kind of skill sets that he has flashed over the last week or so. So stock up for Jacob Young. He's been solid. He's been really impressive so far, and he's certainly someone who's going to be getting a ton of looks over the next few weeks as the season wraps up. And again, thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. I was going to say context, but also for full transparency, I am at the beach here. It is beautiful. You know what else is beautiful? Let me tell you guys about our friends over at Sleeper. And guys, the MLB playoffs are just around the corner, which means the clock is ticking on your chance to win 100 times your cash on daily fantasy baseball. Baseball has never been more exciting than it is now, with studs like Acuna, Betts, and of course, Ohtani. Pick more or less on stats for these stars like home runs, hits, strikeouts, and more for up to 100-time payouts on Sleeper. Get your picks right, and you could win big. This is what's the best about Sleeper, in my opinion, is because you can make all these entries in under a minute and even have this kind of group chat kind of feel where you're with your buddies in a group chat, talking shop, talking baseball, talking fantasy baseball, whatever it may be. This is what Sleeper could be for you. And I think it's just a fun experience in which you could take and win 100 times your money. How does that sound? It sounds pretty damn good to me. Use promo code Locked On and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Flash. And guys, if you win, you thank Locked On Nash. And now we're back into it, as we got to discuss Johnny DiPuglia, the Nationals assistant GM, and really the guy who has kind of been touted as the guy who found Juan Soto, which was one of the steals of the century in the international market. But he was promoted to vice president back in 2019, and the assistant general manager after the Nats won the World Series. And as it should be, when you find Victor Robles and Juan Soto, and even guys like Wander Suero or Pedro Severino and Wilmer Difo, all guys who made somewhat of an impact up in the big leagues. This is something, though, not because of the fact that we're going to be losing a talent evaluator like Johnny DiPuglia, because I've seen some people on Twitter say, oh, well, when was the last time he signed someone that was big? When was the last time he signed someone that has had an impact? That's not really what this is about. Johnny DiPuglia, from my understanding, his job is not to develop this talent. His job is to find the talent. If you look at years past in the international signing class that the Nationals have had over the years, over the last 10 years, DiPuglia has been on the front of that when it comes to scouting talent in the Dominican Republic. And as of recently, he signed Christian Vaquero, someone who has been really impressive so far at the young age of 19 in Fredericksburg. Someone who just got up there a few weeks ago, and he's looked good. Juan Soto, for example, he was pretty damn good. Victor Robles, he was also pretty damn good, a top 10 prospect. So the people who kind of have just downplayed this and said, well, when was the last time we had talent come up from the international signing marketing? You may be right. Yeah, we probably haven't had the best signing classes. You've spent a lot of money, but at this moment, what have they developed into? And you're right. You bring up a fair point. But from my perspective, DiPuglia's job is not to develop this talent. His job is to find the talent, to make them sign with the Washington Nationals, to get the right money, to sign guys to deals, to sign lower level guys like Juan Soto and develop them into superstars. DiPuglia is going to be a big missing piece for this Nationals organization. Say what you want. It is. And really, it's even more telling about what Mike Rizzo in the position that he's in right now. Because we all know that DiPuglia and Mike Rizzo, over the years, they're very tight. They work toe-to-toe together, and they toe the same line. So now you have him leaving the organization with all the speculation about the Chicago White Sox and what they may do. It's concerning. It is. Just for the simple fact that this is not kind of a move that was going to be seen down the line. We kind of thought this was not going to happen, especially to resign out of nowhere like this, especially a few weeks after the Mike Rizzo rumors and everything that's happened there. This is a concern. This is something to follow. This is something to kind of worry about with Mike Rizzo because you've already started this rebuild. You've signed a lot of talent. You have Christian Vaquero. You have Armando Cruz down in minors as well in Fredericksburg. You've got a lot of this talent in which you want to see them develop and take that next step. And while people may want to poo-poo on Johnny DiPuglia because the international signing classes haven't been all that great, you haven't really gotten all too much from it. Well, when you compare them to other organizations in which also the Nationals just aren't as savvy when it comes to other organizations. They don't really look over at Japan or any other countries like that. They're not really looking outside, but what they do is cover the Dominican Republic, and they have done that for years and years and years, signing some big name guys. And again, as of recent, like Christian Vaquero, one of the top guys in his signing class. So this is a loss. This is an absolute loss for this Nationals team. It really is. And at this moment, you can't help but think, what does this mean for Mike Rizzo in the future for him? What does this mean for the Nationals moving forward? Because you need Johnny DiPuglia and you do need Mike Rizzo at the front of your baseball operations department. This is something. It is. It's a little concerning, in fact, just because you've started this rebuild. You want to see Mike Rizzo and have him see the whole thing through. Because we know what this Nationals front office have done. They've rebuilt this team. They've rebuilt the farm system before. And they've climbed the mountaintop and they've torn it down before as well. And so far, they've checked every single box that you would want a front office to do. So to have one of the main pieces just resign like this after all the Mike Rizzo rumors and have him not sign his extension just yet, it is a concern. And it's going to be something that we're going to have to follow because at this moment in time, as of September 4th in the morning of, you haven't really heard a reason as to why he has left. And that part is kind of going to be something that we're going to have to watch. And I'm sure at some point in time, we may figure out what it is, at least publicly, we hope so. But it's going to be a concern. This is not something that is a nothing burger for this Nationals team. You're going to have to see this thing through. And hopefully, just hopefully, it's just he's stepping away from baseball and retiring. But who knows at this moment in time? There's no speculation out there. That's all we can talk about. But overall, it's a little concerning to see this with all the Mike Rizzo rumors turning around. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every day. And of course, I will be here every single day because the Locked On Podcast Network is your team every day, even when I'm at the beach all week. I'll still be watching the Nationals. We got the day off tonight. Thank you. Thank you for giving us the day off. We needed it. We need it so badly. You need to refresh the bullpen. There's so many damn things that this Nationals team needs. But hopefully, you're playing the New York Mets. You're not going to have Mackenzie Gore, most likely. Let's see. Let's see what we can do. 2-game series starting tomorrow. But on tomorrow's show, It's going to be highlighted by Dylan Cruz versus Paul Skeens in their AA matchup on a Tuesday night. We're going to discuss that on tomorrow's show. Everyone have a good one. Enjoy the day off. Enjoy Labor Day and have a good one. I'll see you on the flip side.